Our focus today is really sharply targeted. We're drilling down into some sources forecasting a massive transformation in the Caribbean, specifically Jamaica. We're looking at this detailed report, Jamaica 2045, the new real estate world our children will inherit. And the core insight here is that if you have a child born today in, say, Kingston or Montego Bay, the way they buy a home in 2040 is going to feel completely alien to us. The report suggests the whole ritual of house hunting, the driving around, the stacks of paper, it just won't be relevant anymore.
That's the critical premise.
Yeah.
And to really get your head around this future, you have to see the property is splitting into two layers. It's not just about the physical land and the concrete anymore. By 2045, every single valuable property will have this second layer, an intelligent digital twin wrapped around it. And this digital layer, this is where the real value, the risk, and most of the transactions are going to happen.
Okay, let's unpack this. We're looking at a deep, systemic shift. It's driven by tech, climate reality, and I guess a new generation that just expects everything to be instant and transparent. Let's start with that generational shift. The Jamaican young adult of 2045 will have grown up surrounded by incredibly personalized AI.
Oh, completely. Adaptive school tutors, predictive career guidance, you name it.
So they'll demand that same level of data when it comes to buying property.
Exactly. I mean, today we rely on a few pictures and maybe a quick viewing. By 2040, the source says every serious structure in the major cities, Kingston, Mobay, Portmore, will have what it calls a living digital twin.
I find that term so fascinating, a living digital twin. We all know virtual tours, but what makes this truly living?
It's about behavior, not just looks. This digital twin is a constantly updated copy fed by real-time sensors and environmental data. It's not a snapshot, it's a full operational history. It can show you past energy use, predict future maintenance costs, and this is the crucial part, it simulates how the home behaves under stress.
Like a performance report card for a building. That's a huge psychological shift for a buyer. No one cares about a new coat of paint if the twin shows the foundation struggles every rainy season.
Precisely. This generation won't be swayed by cosmetic stuff. They'll pull up the twin and ask for hard data. What's the risk rating? What's the carbon footprint? What's the projected rental income? The negotiation is based on metrics, not hype.
Let me challenge that for a second, though. If the twin shows a high flood risk, and that data is now legally binding, who's liable if that prediction is wrong?
That is the pivotal legal question. The source suggests that by 2045, the frameworks will be solid. There'll be a new class of digital warranty. The developer or the firm that certified the twins' data has to be liable for major errors. It forces accountability right into the construction process.
So liability shifts from the buyer to the certifier. Interesting.
And connecting that data to the market. This is where tokenization just shatters the economic barrier to entry. Think of it less like buying a house and more like buying into a mutual fund that happens to be a building. You're turning real estate into digital tokens that can be traded easily, just like stocks.
Right. So you're basically converting bricks and mortar into liquid financial instruments.
Exactly. And the scale of this is just massive. Global projections for tokenized real estate are in the trillions of US dollars by the mid-2030s. Jamaica is definitely on that map.
And this is where it gets really interesting for that young Jamaican. Because today, saving for a deposit is a monumental task. It can delay ownership for decades.
That delay just becomes obsolete. The source describes a 19-year-old in 2044 who won't need millions. Their first investment might be buying a 2% stake a few tokens in a new Kingston apartment building.
Or maybe 5% of an eco-villa in Portland.
Precisely. And these aren't just some virtual IOU. They are secure fractional ownership stakes legally backed by the land title.
The benefits seem immediate. You can start investing with small amounts, build a portfolio.
You could own stakes in properties in Jamaica and abroad all at the same time.
Yeah.
You see real-time performance on your phone. And if you need cash, you just sell some tokens on a regulated exchange. You don't have to sell the whole house.
So the conversation changes from, do I have enough for a deposit, to can I start with what I have and just grow my digital equity? That's huge.
It really is. It shifts property ownership from being this exclusive club to a standard investment vehicle for anyone with an internet connection. It's a real pathway to wealth creation that just doesn't exist for most young people today.
Okay, so if the ownership is digital, the transaction has to be too. We can't be queuing in banks for months to buy 2% of a building.
Absolutely not. That's where smart contracts come in. These are self-executing digital agreements on the blockchain. Once the conditions are met ID verified, funds in escrow, title checked, the contract executes automatically.
It just happens. So that removes all the human friction. The endless paperwork, the delays, the phone calls.
It takes all that manual process and embeds the trust directly into the code. The future buyer just expects instant ID verification, secure digital signatures, automated fund transfers, and the land registry, which can take months today, has to update in minutes, recorded instantly on the ledger.
That feels like a game changer for a country like Jamaica where, trust and transparency in land ownership have been, well, a headache.
It's a genuine paradigm shift for trust. You make the land registry immutable, transparent, instant. You eliminate so much potential for fraud. And the role of lawyers changes. They're no longer paper chasers. They become high-level advisors, structuring complex deals, not just shuffling documents.
Speaking of advice, today's buyer leans so heavily on agents, bankers, lawyers, but the source paints a picture of a future where an AI advisor is this constant presence.
A personalized financial co-pilot. This AI knows your financial history, your career trajectory, your risk tolerance, your personal goals. It knows if you value rental yield over, say, multi-generational living space.
But trusting an AI with that level of intimate data, that's a massive cultural leap, isn't it?
It is, but that trust is built over years through adaptive learning in school, personalized health apps, financial planning tools. By the time they're buying a home, the AI feels less like an external tool and more like an extension of their own intelligence.
So what does that buying process actually look like? They aren't just scrolling through listings, I take it.
No, the interaction is way more sophisticated. They pose these complex, multi-layered queries. A buyer in 2040 might ask their AI, "Find me 3 properties in Greater Kingston under my budget, guaranteed to withstand a Cat 5 hurricane with a projected 7% rental yield that will benefit from the new transport upgrades."
Wow, that query just cuts through 99% of the noise instantly. So the AI does the analysis.
And the human agent handles the high-stakes negotiation. They are far from obsolete. Their role is elevated. They become the expert guide, the negotiator, the emotional anchor. They're focused on closing the deal and navigating human relationships, not crunching market data.
And let's pivot to maybe the biggest force shaping all of this: climate reality. This generation will have lived through more intense hurricanes like the Melissa mentioned in the source.
So the old aspiration, the simple sea view, gets replaced by a survival imperative. The first thing they check is the storm surge maps.
It's not just a preference, it's an enforced reality. The digital twin becomes the final word on climate resilience. A buyer can see exactly how a roof handled 150-mile-per-hour winds in a previous storm.
That data is right there, auditable.
And that data feeds directly into financial pressure. The insurance companies will enforce this. If the twin flags a high flood risk or poor construction, the insurance premium becomes impossibly expensive.
So climate resilience stops being an optional extra. It becomes the non-negotiable baseline for property value by 2044. Exactly. It's the cost of entry. And that pressure will also drive the evolution of entire neighborhoods. We'll see what the source calls Caribbean smart districts emerge in parts of Kingston, Montego Bay, even Spanish Town.
What does a smart district actually look like on the ground for a resident? Is it all sci-fi?
It's more functional than sci-fi.
Right.
Think interconnected infrastructure, AI controlling traffic lights to reduce gridlock, energy use optimized across buildings, integrated security, and much stricter data modeling for where you can and cannot build.
The source also touched on some pretty ambitious engineering, like tunnels or elevated systems to deal with congestion.
The goal there is reclaiming surface land. If you can move traffic underground, you free up that space for parks, community assets, or more resilient housing. It makes the whole area more valuable and livable.
And this is where the line between physical and digital wealth just dissolves completely. For us, property is a house. For them, it's a whole spectrum of assets.
Yeah, they might own a 10% stake in a building in Kingston, but also a rentable virtual storefront in some immersive platform. They could even use the digital twin of their physical home as collateral for a loan, instantly.
That fusion is so powerful. Imagine a young creative in Jamaica earning money from digital property like tokenized art and using that liquid wealth to fund a deposit on a real physical home in Clarendon.
It's democratized capital. They can leverage borderless digital wealth to achieve that tangible physical goal of owning a piece of the rock.
So what does this all mean? If Jamaica builds the infrastructure, the policy, the regulations, the outcome is a real estate market with radical transparency where risk is priced correctly and ownership is available to so many more people.
And yet, through all of this, the core emotional driver stays the same. The power of family land, the security, that deep dream of owning a piece of yard, that connection will still be there. Gentrification will still be a force, just playing out on a smarter stage.
It's that timeless desire meeting an instantaneous digital world. The source leaves us with a really provocative final thought. Imagine that 2045 generation looking back at us, just genuinely puzzled by how we did things. They'll be shocked that we made multi-million-dollar decisions based on a few photos and a rushed viewing. But the source suggests their greatest shock will be seeing how many people were locked out of ownership, not from lack of ambition, but because the systems were slow, manual, and just opaque by design. The question for you, the listener, isn't just what property will look like, but if we, today, are willing to dismantle those old systems fast enough to make sure that generation actually inherits that transparent, accessible future.